They say revenge doesn't fix anything. They're wrong. Because the night I watched him unravel, I felt a peace I hadn't touched in years. My name is Scarlett Hayes, and this is how heartbreak became fire. Ethan Carter, the man everyone called too good to be true. And for a while, he was. The flowers, the midnight drives, the way he whispered my name like a secret, I believed in it. Until I didn't. We met on a rainy October evening at an art gallery opening. I was standing before a canvas titled The Illusion of Forever when he appeared beside me, holding two glasses of wine. Do you believe in forever? He asked, his smile disarming. I should have known then that forever was just another word for temporary in his vocabulary. But his eyes held promises I wanted to believe in, and his voice carried a warmth that made me forget every warning sign my instincts whispered. Our first year together was a symphony of stolen moments and grand gestures. He surprised me with a weekend trip to the coast for my birthday, where we danced barefoot on the sand under a canopy of stars. He learned to make my grandmother's apple pie just to see me smile. He helped me through panic attacks, whispering that I was safe, that I was loved, that I was enough. Every moment felt like a page from a romance novel I had written in my dreams. But dreams, I learned, are fragile things. The truth revealed itself in the smallest, cruelest way. A bright red lipstick stain, not mine, on the white shirt I'd given him. The one he wore the night he said he'd been working late. I found it on a Tuesday morning as sunlight streamed through our bedroom window, illuminating the evidence like a spotlight on a stage. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stared at it and smiled, a quiet, dangerous smile. The game had begun, but before the game could truly start, I needed to know the depths of his betrayal. I hired a private investigator, a woman named Martha, who had kind eyes but a ruthless efficiency. Within a week, she delivered a folder thick with photographs, receipts, and timelines. They had been meeting for 6 months. 6 months of lies told to my face. 6 months of I love yous that meant nothing. 6 months of building a future with me while destroying it with her. The photographs were damning. Ethan and Vanessa at a hotel. I recognized the same one where he'd taken me for our first anniversary. Ethan and Vanessa at a restaurant, his hand over hers, the same gesture he used with me. Ethan and Vanessa laughing, their faces closed, sharing secrets that should have been mine. Each image was a knife, and I let every single one cut me because I needed to remember. I needed the fuel for what was coming. Weeks passed. Vanessa, that smiling, unassuming colleague, was in his life, but more than that, she was a betrayal stitched together by my own trust. I had introduced them at a company barbecue, praising her work ethic, encouraging Ethan to collaborate with her on a major project. I had been the architect of her entry, the unwitting catalyst, and now I waited. I watched their texts, their calls, every laugh that wasn't meant for me. I installed a monitoring app on his phone, simple, undetectable, devastating. I read every I miss you he sent her while lying next to me. I listened to voice memos where he complained about me, calling me too clingy, too emotional, painting me as an obstacle to his happiness. They thought I was broken. They thought my silence was surrender. They were wrong. Silence isn't weakness, it's patience. Like a predator circling its prey, I began subtly. Ethan's calendar entries shifted, important meetings moved to the wrong times, causing him to miss crucial presentations. Client files mysteriously vanished from his office, only to reappear in strange places, making him look disorganized and incompetent. I whispered tiny suggestions to his boss, Marcus, under the guise of concern. I'm worried about Ethan, I'd say over coffee, playing the devoted girlfriend. He seems so stressed lately, forgetting things. Is everything okay at work? Marcus, who had always liked me, began watching Ethan more closely. He called it coincidence. I called it precision. I also reached out to Vanessa's boyfriend. Yes, she had one. A man named David who had no idea his girlfriend was spending her evenings in hotel rooms with my fiancé. I sent him an anonymous email with just enough information to plant doubt. Your girlfriend works late often, maybe too often. Room 447 at the Riverside Hotel. Thursdays at 8 p.m. I never confirmed who sent it. I didn't need to. The seeds of suspicion, once planted, grow like weeds at the skyline. And remember, T, every smile I gave Ethan was rehearsed, every word measured. I played the role of the loving, trusting girlfriend with an actress's precision. I cooked his favorite meals, laughed at his jokes, made love to him while imagining the moment his world would shatter. I was a ghost in my own life, performing a part while the real me waited in the wings, sharpening her knives. Then came the centerpiece of my plan, our anniversary. Candlelight dinner, perfect playlist, the illusion of normalcy. But Vanessa was invited from his phone. A text I crafted carefully. Scarlett wants to thank you for all your help. Dinner at our place, 8 p.m. She has a surprise for both of us. He thought it a surprise. She thought it a treat. I knew it was the night their carefully constructed lives would crumble. I spent the day preparing. I cooked Ethan's favorite dish, a cook oven, the same meal I'd made the night he proposed. I set the table with our best china, arranged roses in crystal vases, dimmed the lights to create an atmosphere of romance and intimacy. I dressed in the red dress he loved, the one he said made me look like I'd stepped out of a dream. I even put on the perfume he'd given me last Christmas. Every detail was perfect. Every detail was a lie. Candles flickered as Ethan entered, holding white roses, another bouquet, another empty gesture. Vanessa followed, wearing the same guilty smile I had seen in dreams I now realized were nightmares. She carried a bottle of wine, probably thinking this was some bizarre but friendly gesture from the woman whose life she was helping to ruin. Their eyes met mine, and the air thickened like the world had paused to listen. Scarlet, he stammered, confusion crossing his face. He glanced at Vanessa, then back at me, trying to piece together a puzzle he didn't know existed. I raised my glass, filled with the most expensive wine from our collection. To honesty, I said, my voice steady and cold, and to endings. I pressed play on my laptop. A slideshow began, text, photos, voice notes, every lie, every excuse, projected behind them like a mural of betrayal. The screen glowed in the darkened room, illuminating their faces with the evidence of their sins. There was the text where he told her I was just a phase he was growing out of. There was the photo of them kissing in his car, taken in our driveway while I was inside, making him dinner. There was the voice note where she laughed about how oblivious I was, how easy this all was. The silence was deafening. Their faces paled, mouths moved, but no words came. Ethan's hands trembled, the roses falling to the floor, petals scattering like the remnants of broken promises. Vanessa's wine glass slipped, red liquid spreading across the white tablecloth like blood. The air was thick with the realization that they had underestimated me. But I wasn't finished. I stood, walked to the mantel, and retrieved 2 envelopes. For you, I said, handing one to each of them. Inside Ethan's was a copy of every text, every photo, every piece of evidence I'd gathered, along with a list of everyone I'd send it to. His parents, his boss, his colleagues, his friends. Inside Vanessa's was similar evidence, along with screenshots of the messages I'd sent to David, her boyfriend, who was probably already confronting her absence tonight. You both thought you were so clever, I said, my voice barely above a whisper but cutting through the silence like a blade. You thought I was too trusting, too naive, too in love to notice. But love doesn't make you blind. It makes you see everything. And I saw it all. Ethan finally found his voice. Scarlett, please, I can explain. Explain? I laughed, a sound devoid of humor. Explain which part? The 6 months of lies? The hotel room where you took her on our anniversary? Or maybe the part where you told her I was too emotional while you were the one destroying everything we built. Vanessa stood abruptly, tears streaming down her face. I didn't mean I never wanted to hurt. You never wanted to hurt me. I interrupted. You just wanted what was mine. You wanted the life I built, the man I loved, the future I planned. You wanted it all, and you took it, and you smiled while doing it. Both of you did. The night ended not with screams or shouting, but with a quiet reckoning. Ethan and Vanessa were left in the ashes of their deceit, sitting at a table set for a celebration that would never come. I walked upstairs, packed a bag I'd prepared weeks ago, and left through the back door. I was gone by morning, leaving behind one final message, the truth behind the smile. Sent to his boss, his parents, his siblings, the partners at his firm, anyone who had believed in his perfection. By evening, the fallout was complete. He was alone. Vanessa vanished from social media, her relationship with David imploding spectacularly. And I flew to somewhere warm, somewhere silent, where his name could not touch me. I chose Barcelona, a city where I knew no one, where no one knew my story, where I could rebuild without the weight of pity or judgment. I rented a small apartment overlooking the beach, with windows that let in light the color of honey. I spend my days walking Las Ramblas, sitting in cafes with sketchbooks, rediscovering the woman I'd been before. Ethan Carter entered my life. Months passed. I painted again the same red as the stain that had started it all, now filling my canvases. Fire, not fear. Passion, not pain. My work changed darker, more visceral, more honest. I painted betrayal as a serpent coiled around a heart. I painted resurrection as a phoenix emerging from ash. I painted myself as a woman with eyes that had seen too much but refused to look away. A gallery in Barcelona discovered my work. The owner, a woman named Isabel, with silver hair and knowing eyes, offered me a solo exhibition. Your paintings? She said, studying a canvas titled The Unraveling. They tell a story everyone knows, but few have the courage to speak. The exhibition opened on a cool autumn evening. People came. They stood before my work in silence, seeing their own heartbreaks reflected in the colors and shapes I'd created. But the world outside, the echoes of betrayal, they haunted me still. I found myself wandering empty streets at night, remembering the weight of love misplaced. Every corner reminded me of him. Every reflection in a shop window whispered his name. I'd see couples holding hands and feel a phantom pain in my chest. I'd hear a laugh that sounded like his and feel my body tense, ready for a confrontation that would never come. Therapy sessions became my confessionals. I found a therapist named Dr. Elena Mora who specialized in trauma and betrayal. She had a gentle presence but asked brutal questions. Do you think revenge healed you? She'd ask. Or did it simply give you control over a situation where you'd felt powerless? I spoke to her about the betrayal, about the loss of innocence and trust, about the silent rage that had once consumed me. Yet even as I spoke, I realized the truth. I had been reborn in that fire. But fire is dangerous. Fire lingers. And sometimes the past is not ready to let go. Then came the emails, anonymous messages, whispers of, you were too good for him, and do you regret it? At first, they seemed like spam, random messages from internet strangers, but they became more specific, more personal. I know what you did to Ethan. Justice isn't always pretty. Some secrets should stay buried. I ignored them at first, but curiosity crept in, like smoke through a crack. And one night, I allowed myself a glance at the chaos I had left behind. I searched his name on social media, something I'd promised myself I wouldn't do. Ethan's life had unraveled. His LinkedIn profile showed he'd left his prestigious position at the firm. His Instagram, once filled with carefully curated images of success and happiness, now sat dormant. The last post dated the week after our anniversary dinner. Mutual friends who'd remained connected reported he'd moved back home with his parents, that he was going through something, that he'd become a shell of who he'd been. Vanessa had disappeared entirely. Her social media accounts were deleted. Her LinkedIn gone. She'd vanished like a ghost, leaving no trace except the memory of what she'd done. And yet, I felt no triumph, only the quiet, heavy acknowledgement of what had been lost and what had been saved myself. I landed in a city where no one knew my name, yet I carried every memory like a shadow. Days melted into nights, and I wandered streets lit by street lamps, feeling the echo of my own heartbeat. Every step reminded me I had taken back my life, yet the ache of betrayal remained. Then it happened. A message from an unknown number. Do you ever regret it? I didn't reply. The truth was simple. I didn't regret the fire. I regretted trusting him once. But there was a lesson in every flame. Pain had carved a space inside me that only I could fill. Weeks later, I returned briefly, not to him, not to Vanessa, not to the ruins of their lives, but to the spaces where my memory lived. The cafe where Ethan had whispered sweet nothings, the park bench where we had laughed, unaware that laughter could betray. I sat, and for the first time, I let tears fall freely. Not for him, not for Vanessa, but for the Scarlet who had once believed in fairy tales, who had been too soft for a world like theirs. I visited the gallery where we'd first met. The painting, the illusion of forever, was still there, hanging in the same spot. I stood before it as I had that rainy October evening, but this time I was alone. This time I understood the title in a way I hadn't before. Forever is the illusion. The present is what's real. And I was finally, truly present in my own life. But life does not forgive idle hearts. My past reached out with hands I thought I had severed. Vanessa reappeared, not to apologize, not to beg, but because she needed to face the aftermath of choices she had made. I met her in a small gallery where my latest canvases were displayed. She looked different, lighter, less guarded, haunted still by the woman she had once helped to destroy. Scarlet, she said, voice trembling. I didn't know he'd. I cut her off with a look that weighed heavier than words. Do not speak of him. Speak of yourself. Speak of the choices you made, because he is gone from my world. Her gaze dropped. A silent acknowledgement passed between us, a recognition that betrayal is a teacher, but only for those who survive it. She told me she lost everything. Her job, her relationship with David, her reputation. She'd moved to a different city, changed her career, tried to become someone new. But the shame, she said, followed her like a stain she couldn't wash out. I listened without sympathy, without anger, just listen. When she finished, I said simply, good. Now you know what it feels like. And I walked away. I left the gallery with the weight of my own story pressing against my chest. At home, I began writing again. Not letters, not messages, not confessions to anyone I wrote for me. Every page burned with memory, with sorrow, with the cautious spark of something unbroken. My heart was still wounded. Yes, but it was mine. And that mattered more than any revenge I had taken. The words flowed like a river that had been dammed for too long. I wrote about the red lipstick stain. I wrote about the private investigators folder. I wrote about the slideshow that ended everything. I wrote about Barcelona and therapy and the lonely nights when I wondered if I'd become as cruel as the people who'd hurt me. I wrote until my hands ached, until the sun rose and set and rose again, until I'd purged every drop of poison from my system. Then the final confrontation. Ethan, unaware I had returned, contacted me. The call came in at 2 a.m. The number masked, the voice familiar. Scarlet, I need to talk, he pleaded. I let silence fill the line. His breathing, ragged, filled the void. I could almost see him, trembling, standing in a house that had once felt like paradise. I said nothing, because sometimes the weight of absence is louder than any word. You don't understand. I didn't mean he started, but I interrupted in my mind, not aloud. Every lie, every stolen moment, every stolen piece of my trust, you understand now, even if you cannot say it. I finally spoke soft and deliberate. Ethan, there is nothing left to understand. What was yours to break, you have broken. What was mine to save, I saved, alone. Click. Silence. That was the last time I heard his voice. The last time his name held any power over me. In that moment, I realized something profound. Closure isn't given by the person who hurt you. Closure is something you create for yourself in the quiet spaces where you decide their story no longer defines yours. Weeks passed. Life returned to its rhythm, slow and deliberate. I painted mornings away, watched the sun spill gold across my studio, and let the wind carry the remnants of grief out of the open windows. Each stroke on the canvas became a heartbeat, each color a pulse of reclamation. Then came the letter. No sender, no signature, just a single line. You were stronger than I ever imagined. I smiled. Not for him, not for anyone, but for me. I planted flowers where old resentment once grew, jasmine and lavender, blooms that symbolized healing and new beginnings. I hosted friends who said thank you and meant it, people who filled my apartment with laughter that wasn't tainted by lies. I laughed in the kitchen without fear of a slammed door, danced alone to music I loved, wore clothes that made me feel beautiful without seeking validation from anyone. I even started teaching art classes to children who needed a voice to express their pain. Kids from difficult homes, from broken families, from situations where words failed them. I taught them that colors could speak when voices couldn't, that creation was its own form of healing. Watching them transform pain into beauty reminded me why I'd survived, not for revenge, but for this, for the chance to help others find their way through darkness. My life was no longer defined by betrayal. It was defined by how I rose from it. And sometimes, late at night, I would look he fire, not with longing, not with hatred, but with the quiet understanding that it had forged me into someone unbreakable. Because the truth is this: revenge doesn't heal, it doesn't erase. It doesn't erase the betrayal, the heartbreak, or the nights spent awake imagining the worst, but it can illuminate a path forward. It can teach you that the person who thought they owned you never did. I am Scarlet Hayes. I was broken, I was burned, and I was betrayed, but I survived. I rose. And in the ashes of what I lost, I built a life no one could touch. The bridge behind me is gone, and I don't look back.